Now, what about DaBaby, who actually calls you a mentor?
So DaBaby or Lil Baby?
Yeah.
Because
No,
I got the
DaBaby.
whole nursery school, man.
No, you got all the babies. We'll get to the Lil Baby afterwards. Let's talk about DaBaby first.
Look, I love DaBaby, and you know, he is another guy. I have an expression that I feel like grinders are attracted to one another in friendship and respect. You know, if there's one thing I'll say, I don't like to do the whole self-talk about myself, but I do work hard. I do believe in grinding. I think when you're fighting for somebody's freedom and their liberty, you owe them 24/7, and don't bitch about it and talk about, you know, work-life balance and all that bullshit. My clients aren't worried about my fucking work-life balance. They're worried about freedom. And DaBaby is that guy in his industry. This guy is a relentless worker. He never stops working. Every time he calls me, he's, you know, FaceTiming me, and he's in the middle of another project. But he's another guy that's so smart. As you know, because I know in all your interviews how well researched you are. As you know, in December of 22, I did a federal trial for him, and we won, defense verdict. This guy, John Kirk, DaBaby, was so laser focused during that trial. I mean, I've represented executives in white collar cases that have not been as laser focused as him. And he really studied the process. It was funny, during one of the depositions, he's being deposed, and we're about 3 hours in, and he objects. And I'm like, did DaBaby just fucking object? And then he literally says, you didn't lay the foundation. Literally, this is what he says. I'm like, you got freaking people that are 20 years out of law school that don't understand foundation. But John DaBaby picks up on things so quickly. I have great admiration for his laser beam focus and intelligence.
What was that case over?
So that was him in a dispute pre-Super Bowl, January 2020, with some promoters that were, you know, trying to, from his perspective, take advantage of him. And they tried to sue him. And of course we countersued, and he got a defense verdict. There was a physical dispute, and we shut out ball, man. We threw a no-hitter. We went Nolan Ryan on him.
Okay, so what about Lil Baby? What was that case about?
So Lil Baby's kind of different. He was, I know he was on another similar show to yours, and he had a great quote that I told him I wanted to put on coffee mugs. He called me my lawyer. That's not my lawyer, because I don't get in trouble. Lil Baby really doesn't have any issues. But I met Lil Baby when he first started. And so if you go on my Instagram account, you'll see a picture of him wearing some royal blue sweatshirt, you know, in 2018 or whatever it is. And I met him right when he started. And so Lil Baby is just a guy that's come around. He's real dedicated to the community. He's become a real friend of the office. He stops by all the time. Just saw him at a Hawks game I was with Boosie at, and has really become a friend of the office. And what's cool about him is, as you know, he served a couple years in jail. And so I convinced Lil Baby to get involved in criminal justice reform. And I've had Lil Baby give 2 national speeches. So, I mean, I want you to think about this. This is Lil Baby that's performing to sold out audiences with 14,000 people. But I had him speak to lawyers, even prosecutors and judges from all over the country in one event about prisoner reentry issues and the collateral consequences of being a convicted felon. And then I had him as a feature speaker in another event, and he held his own, man. He was as good as any of the lawyers that were on the card.
Okay, so you just mentioned Boosie. This is, you know, our biggest regular guest, and me and him go back almost 20 years. What exactly were you representing him for? So Boosie had, you know, long before I knew Boosie, he had his big case in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he was represented by my good friend, Jason Williams. And as many people know, Jason has gone on into the world of politics. And and it's crazy because he's now the district attorney for the Orleans Parish. And he still has incredible love for Boosie. So I say to people all the time, okay, when you think of Boosie, understand that the district attorney in one of the major cities in this country loves Boosie as much as a bunch of us do. But he had an issue outside, a case outside of Atlanta that I took care of. Then right after COVID, he had another case. And he's kind of another guy, Vlad, that's just become a friend of the office. I think what Boosie would tell you, the unique part of our practice, we always say, once you're our client, you're kind of our 365, 24/7 friend. You need us, you stop by anytime. He's become really close with my son who's at the office. They say they always see each other at the mall, which tells me Boosie's shopping, but also tells me my kids at the mall all the time. And he's just a friend of the office. And he's another guy that the other people in the industry, and I know you hear this, people in his industry have incredible respect for his business acumen. I'm not a transactional guy, Vlad, at all. I don't do that. I'm not going to negotiate your contract. I don't want to. When I buy a house, I don't even read the fucking mortgage papers, okay? But I'm talking some of the highest, most successful, highest level people in the industry will tell me Boosie is a business savant. And I have incredible respect for intelligence. And I think that's just amazing. But a lot of people on the outside are going to, just stereotype and just see him be kind of funny and think, oh, he's just a goofy guy. No, if you're thinking he's goofy, number one, he's not goofy. He's smarter than you, and he makes 1,000 times more money than the people that are laughing at him.
Oh, yeah, no, me and Boosie, our business relationship goes back, over a decade, and it's always professional, always on time. There's never any, if we agree to do something, he'll do it to his full capacity. He won't try to leave early or try to cut corners. It's always 100% with him every single time. Whenever there's any sort of miscommunication or whatever, we get on the phone, we work it out, and 5 minutes later, we're done.
So it's funny you say that. So Zach, my son, Zach Findling and I, we're meeting him at a basketball game just 2 days ago. And he sends me a text going, I need you to be on time. And I say, Zach, he's the only fucking rapper in the world that just told me I need to be on time. So you're exactly right. If he says he'll be there at 10, he's there at 9:55.
Okay, so speaking of basketball, you actually represented a couple of basketball players. Shaquille O'Neal, what were you doing with him?
Yeah, so Shaq had a kind of domestic related civil type of thing years ago. And he had a great lawyer out of Vegas that was helping him out, good friend of mine. And we felt that he was the victim of a shakedown, which unfortunately, when you're famous and have a lot of money, shakedown is just part of the business. And so brought me in, and we took care of business for him because we are shakedown detectors. And we got to represent Shaq. Guy was cool as can be, super respectful client. He's the kind of guy that gets on the phone and does all the research on you before he puts you on your team. So very impressive guy.
Okay, and finally, Dennis Rodman.
So there was an investigation and a prosecution here in what was known as the Gold Club case. And the Gold Club was a famous strip club where it was alleged in this conspiracy that they were ripping off customers. It was alleged to be tied to a criminal organization. And so while people were kind of shopping for lawyers, I got approached by some LA folks that wanted to send me Dennis Rodman. And I'm like, okay, why would I want any client in a strip club case when I can represent Dennis Rodman and hang out with him? And again, an amazing, when I kind of reflect back in my career, an amazing experience. Another guy that's smart as a whip, another guy that reads the paper front to the back and talk to you about any subject. And Vlad, I love to tell this story. He and I are working and we're going through things, and we're at the Ritz-Carlton, we're talking, and he puts ESPN on. And we kind of talk, then we take a break. And what shocked me is that he starts talking about the NHL. I can't hold a conversation about the NHL. And I'm like, wow, Dennis Rodman is schooling me on the NHL. But just a super intelligent guy that I experienced was a workout fiend, because when I went to meet him the next day, security told me this guy was freaking working out, lifting like 2 a.m, nonstop.
Well, not every case works out and not every client works out. Have you ever had any bad experiences where you took a client on and it just didn't work out and you've had to either leave or they've ended up, getting a different lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely happens from time to time. I always like to be on my terms. Generally speaking, I demand respect for my office. We're a little bit different. If you talk to criminal defense lawyers, you'll probably, I mean, some big firms say that they do criminal defense, but they don't try cases. We try cases. And so a little different is that we're 5 lawyers dedicated to this profession. And I expect everybody in my office, if we're going to treat people with respect, but if I detect that you're not going to be respectful to us, then we're out. There's too many people that are calling our phone, like, come by the office one day, and you'll have to put those earphones on because the phone's ringing off the hook all the time. So if you're going to be disrespectful, then it's just not going to work out with us.
Okay. Can you name anyone that was disrespectful?
No, not really, because we have great luck with clients. We
Okay.
Pretty passionate about what we do.
I mean, if I caught a murder case and I wanted you to represent me, how much would it cost me?
Well, I can't give any
ballpark. Just a ballpark.
Yeah, I'm never going to do that. You're not going to catch me doing that. But I would say a lot of fucking money.
I mean, in terms of a retainer, how much of a retainer I need to give you to just kind of get the ball rolling?
If there's no getting the ball rolling, we're going to hit you with a number, and that's going to be the number.
Okay.
But it's going to be big.
Okay. What was the most you've ever gotten paid for a case overall? Have you ever had $1 million from a client to get them out of something very serious, like an OJ type case?
So you don't charge to get somebody out of it. You just charge.
Right.
But I can't really give you a number, but I would say it's a big number.
Okay. And you've had lots of interesting nicknames. God in the Streets, the Witch Doctor, the Illest.
Yeah.
Am I missing any of them?
It never ceases to amaze me. This the whole. I don't even keep track of all of it. Probably one of the best conversations I've had is, as many people know, the whole $1 billion lawyer thing started with Dolph, may he rest in peace. And so, Dolph does the video in LA and calls me the $1 billion lawyer. Well, one of my favorite people that the earth was ever blessed with was Curse Nick Ball, which is Takeoff. And Takeoff and I had to go to the West Coast during COVID. And he was such a great kid. That was when everybody was so scared of COVID. He gets us a jet. So it's me and Takeoff and one other guy that's just sitting away from us. He gets us a jet to go to the West Coast together. And we're about halfway through the flight talking about everything. Just great guy. We're having great conversations. Then he goes, Drew, it wasn't Dolph, right? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, no, man. I was calling you $1 billion lawyer long before then. So I don't know. Takeoff said he started it, but I heard it come from Dolph. I got no corroboration for Take, but I love both of those guys. But I've heard all kinds of nicknames, but thank goodness they've all been good.